Hello, hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today's topic is going to be the latest iteration of the Deck of Fate, and it is a special one, of course, because it is the guaranteed event, effective guaranteed event for Raphael, one of the 4 Ninja Turtles as part of the collaboration between Raid and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So the Hothead Deck of Fate here. So let's take a look at this one. So for anyone who's unfamiliar, decks of Fate are pretty par for the course. At this point, there are 40 cards in the deck, and you earn points, in this case, from summoning Soulstones and doing Gear Hunters, Dungeon Divers, whatever you want to call it. And the breakdown of the cards is that there are 17 common, 14 rare, and 9 epic, and you can have access to plenty of these rewards. So there's Titan event points up for grabs, but of course the main appeal are the fragments building up to Raphael. And from what I've seen from other creators doing their flips already, there are a lot of nodes. At least half of the nodes, I think, are Raphael fragments. So if you want him, you're practically gonna have to go all the way out there and flip all 40, somewhere at least in the mid to upper 30s on average, I would say. But basically plan on flipping the entire deck if your plan is to guarantee yourself the champion. Now, the main gimmick of decks of Fate are that if you get 3 of a kind in a row, then you can roll on these respective tables. So 3 commons, 3 rares, and or 3 epics. And in this case, we do actually have the pinning feature, which is kind of nice. So you can pin a streak of the rares or the epics. Ideally, you know, if you get an epic streak, then you want to preserve that over a rare streak. That's just how it goes. But hopefully you can get a rare streak in between epic streaks. But worth noting again that there are 9 epic cards. So if you're flipping the entire deck, then you are guaranteed to get 3 epic streaks, or all 3 epic streaks, just because you can pin them and preserve that. So you get 3 rolls if you do the entire deck on this table, which can be pretty lucrative. You can get Sacred Shard, Mythical Tome, Relic Fragments, 500 gems, Mythical Chaos Ore, so lots of good stuff if you plan to go all the way out there. So down here at the bottom, as I mentioned, this is a combination of Gear Hunters and a Soulstone Rush, and as you can see there, it is a pretty brutal one. Technically speaking, this is not the worst we've ever seen. The worst we've ever seen historically was the Freya Deck of Fate, the infamous Freya Deck of Fate, which was 60% of the maximum. This is 70%, so it's not much better, but it is slightly better than hers. And yeah, Dungeon Divers, as we've always said when it comes to these events and tournaments, it's not really going to get you that many points. So this is predominantly a Soulstone summoning event. You can do some Dungeon Divers. As you can see, I have, like 600 points so far, just from a little bit of Spider that I ran yesterday and a little bit of Champion Training I've run thus far. So that's a little bit. Maybe I'll get 1 to 2 to 3 flips over the course of the 3 days. But when it comes to, you know, accumulating a massive amount of points, i.e. flipping the entire deck, it's predominantly going to come down to how many Soulstones you have. And that's actually a brilliant segue into the spreadsheet, which will, of course, will be linked in the description box down below if you'd like to check this out for yourself. But we are in the Deck of Fate calculator tab, and I will highlight that we have the Gear Hunters, the renamed Gear Hunters section here. But once again, reiterating that you're not going to get the bulk of your points from this. But nonetheless, if you do want to just know on average how many points you're going to get per run or per energy for running, you know, different dungeon types, normal mode, stage 20, 24, 25, hard mode, stage 6, stage 10, and or running campaign, because there is champion training going on right now, you can kind of take a look at those values. But the bulk of the points you're going to get is from Soulstone summoning here. And we do have, like I mentioned, the nerf applier, as I'm saying, that is the decrement that is being applied relative to the peak values that we've seen from decks of Fate. That being, you know, 5,000 here, 1,000 here, and 100 here. So we're at 70%. The nerf applier is at 70%. So it's just a lot less than the best value we've seen, but it is, again, still better than the worst we've seen, barely. But in terms of how many of each Soulstone type you would need to flip the entirety of the deck, this is where it gets extremely expensive. 572 on the Mortals, 58 on the Immortals, and 12 on the Eternals. Obviously, you can mix and match different numbers of the different tiers, and you can kind of you know, get your way there. But again, it's really, really, really expensive to do this. And so I really hope, if you are going for it, that you really, really do want Raphael for yourself. In terms of my particular plan for this Deck of Fate, fans of the channel might be already able to guess, but I do plan to skip out on this one. It just doesn't feel worth it to me, but I'll explain that a little bit more here in detail. But you know, this is Raphael, Legendary Attack, Force Affinity. He's a barbarian, and to me, his kit seems cool. Block Revive on the A1, a decently hard-hitting AoE attack that ignores shield block damage if he's under Berserk, which he can place on himself when the passive comes around. And then a triple hitter here that places unkillable if you kill someone, perfect fail. And then Berserk, if anyone dies, chance to grant extra turns. Of course, he has the ally attack with all the turtles. I mean, he's decent, but to me, I read the kit and I just see another nuker. And when it comes to the faction that he's in Barbarians. So I, like many people, have a Thor from the Fusion. So Thor is kind of like my primary Barbarian nuker, and he hits relatively hard. He also ignores block damage, or has the capability to ignore it on one of his abilities. So it's a little bit of redundancy there. The only benefit would be like the affinity difference. But the point being, I have a nuker for this faction, and I don't really need two. He's not like he's gonna game change my PvP prowess or anything like that. And when it comes to guaranteed champions, it's not just the fact that they're cool, they look good, they're exclusive or whatever that's kind of pushing me over the edge. I need to see some utility. Like I don't want to rip all my Soulstones and then chuck them in the vault, which is exactly what would happen. So yeah, I know there can be a lot of FOMO when it comes to the exclusive champions, but the way I look at it is, as a free-to-play player, because there's been a ton of exclusive champions that I don't have and can never get, depending on whether or not the collaborations will return. Thinking of Monster Hunter collaborations, thinking of the Champion Pass champions that of course cost money. There's a bunch of exclusive champions that I will never get, so having another one in the pool, even though there's an opportunity to get it, it's just not that enticing to me, because he's just another one that I can't potentially get. So I don't know, it doesn't really sway me. But if this was a different faction, if he was in like Lizardmen, where I desperately need a damage dealer for that hard mode faction, then honestly I would have been more tempted to go for him. But unfortunately for me, Donatello is the Lizardman of the Turtles. And but if this was like Archer Queen from like the Monster Hunter collaboration, they did a guaranteed for her, I definitely would have gone for that, because of the immense utility that she can provide on my account. So again, it's just the champion needs to do something for me, and just having another generic attack based nuker, even somewhat unique, granted, but just having another nuker in a faction where I already have a nuker just doesn't really seem worth it in terms of my resources. And I'll reiterate, as I always do, that I'm not saying that because I can't do it. I'm saying that from a position where I absolutely can. So I have 395 on the mortals, I have 22 on the immortals here, and I also have 53 in terms of coins. I'm in a position to do the entirety of the Deck of Fate purely with immortals. I have the 58. It would blow up all my coins that I'm saving up for like Marius, Souls, and other champions. But nonetheless, I could do this if I wanted to. I could choose to, but I'm choosing not to, just because it doesn't feel worth it for me in my particular situation. However, I will probably get a handful of flips, as I mentioned before, because I'm going to be working on the champion training event that just started this morning. And then I'm also going to be, or I also did a little bit of rounding up the spider tournament in terms of the Titan event points yesterday. So I'm going to get maybe 2, 3, 4 flips over the course of the next few days, and maybe we'll get 5, 10 fragments and throw it towards the mound chests and whatnot, but definitely not going all in for Raph. Now, all that said, in terms of a formal recommendation for all of you, of course, you don't have to share my opinion on whether or not he's a good champion for you. If you want him, then, and you have the Soulstone to do it, then by all means, go for it if you feel like it's worth it for you. I would definitely recommend that you try to dungeon dive as much as you can before pulling, just to minimize the amount of Soulstones you have to use, unless you just have an abundance of them and you're ready to go. But again, dungeon divers are not going. It's not going to save you. It's not going to get you 40,000 points. That would take a ridiculous amount of energy. But you might save 5, 10 immortals or something just by maybe not that many, but you might save some immortal Soulstones just by doing some dungeon divers. So hold off on that one. At least wait until the last day, ideally, to do your summons. But yeah, if you want them and you have the resources, then definitely go for them. At this point, I'm still skeptical. I think that there's a potential that Leo could also be Soulstones, maybe like Soulstones plus shards, but most people, from what I've been hearing, are thinking that Leo is pretty much going to be shards, a 90-something% chance. So I hope you're right. But there is always that risk that Leonardo could overlap in terms of the resources for getting Raph here. So just keep that in mind. But unfortunately, we don't have that information, so it's going to be a gamble no matter what you do. So yeah, that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Hothead Deck of Fate. Once again, if you do want to check out that spreadsheet, it is linked in the description box down below. There are plenty of other tools in that spreadsheet, so check out all the tabs and see if they're going to be useful for you. Let me know in the comment section down below, what is your plan relative to this Deck of Fate? Are you going all in for Raph, or are you taking a pass because you don't have the resources, or you're like me and you're not really that fond of the champion? As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel. And also feel free to hit the subscribe button down below if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.